Hello, YouTube, and welcome back to Brewing with Magic. Well, it's still spoiler season, so that means we still have that guy with us. Hey, Will.
Hey everybody.
Good to see you again. So, well, before we get into it, I just want to remind you, when we hit 500 subscribers, we will be doing something extremely special. Want to know what I'm talking about? Check the description down below. Rate, review, and subscribe. Already subscribed? We both really appreciate you being part of the Brew Crew, and we love it if you would check our description down below for our Twitter and share this on social media. So, well, I guess let's get into the cards. What do we got for you today? We have 6 cards we're going to talk about, and then kind of like a little bit of an honorable mention, if you will. So let's start off today with the commons, and we'll start with a blue card named Shortcut Seeker. It's 1 blue, 3 colorless, creature, human, rogue, and it's a 2/5. 2/5 is an interesting attack and defense for a 4-drop. I don't hate or love it. Let's see what it is. Whenever Shortcut Seeker deals combat damage to a player, venture into the dungeon, which I'll just do this one time just as a reminder. That means you either enter the first room or advance to the next room of the dungeon you're currently in. So what do you think about this card? Is it going to see some play? Is it limited? What are we doing?
Yeah, honestly, I think this is going to be more of a limited card for the most part. I was thinking about it overall, and I was like, you know what? The expense is really high for what you get for a 2/5. I mean, Rogue kind of interested me. Human kind of interested me just because those two mechanics alone fit into a lot of like archetypes that we could play when it comes to either standard or historic. The big backside also kind of played into it, having that 5 on the backside. So maybe like in a Bant shell where you're using that backside as more of the attack side. But that again would become more like historic unless they like introduce something new into this mechanic. So I mean, I like it in historic. I'm not 100% bought on it yet in standard, but we'll see when new cards get released to see how this kind of get maybe advanced.
Yeah, and as far as I agree with you in standard, unless like you just really need one more enter the dungeon card, and they're just not producing a whole lot, which I don't think is going to be the case. This isn't going to see any play, and they're then I think limited. A 2/5 and limited is probably going to be tough to deal with. So
Yeah.
next, we're going to go to a white card, Gloomstalker. It's 1 white, 2 colorless, creature, dwarf, ranger. It's a 2/3, so at least it doesn't get stomped till September. That's good. And as long as you've completed a dungeon, Gloomstalker has double strike. You tell me what you think. I think this has potential to actually be a very strong 3-drop.
Yeah, no, I did too. I was thinking along the same line in a Boros or Selesnya build, either like, with counters or the double strike is what really got me. Because having a 2/3, but having it gain double strike when you complete a dungeon, kind of fits a lot of motifs that we're seeing. So especially in that Boros category, there's a lot of warrior mechanics, things along those lines where you're adding stuff to your equipment. He seems like he can block good enough on that 3-drop. But if you're able to complete a dungeon, maybe on turn 4, turn 5, depending on what dungeon you pick, you're able to get benefit or value out of them pretty quickly. So from a low standpoint, being a common, it's not bad. It's not a bad common.
Strong for a common.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's head into the uncommon that they have released for us so far, and there's going to be so much more coming, everybody. We cannot wait. This is looking fun. But this is a black creature. It's Dungeon Crawler, which I like the name.
Yep.
Very, very flavorful. It's 1 black, zombie, 2/1. Dungeon Crawler enters the battlefield tapped. Whenever you complete a dungeon, you may return Dungeon Crawler from your graveyard to your hand. So, the fact that it comes in the battlefield tapped seems a little slow for me, but if the fact that research and development has made this an uncommon, I have a feeling that there might be a way to abuse this more than we think. So what are you thinking here?
Yeah, honestly, it started having me think back to older cards, especially ones we currently see in historic, like Diagraph Ghoul and Gutterbones. Both of those are 1 black, 2/1, come in tap. And they give you a lot of value. So it seems to be kind of following that same like occurrence where, those ones you could pay to bring back or things along those lines, they go to your hand. So, the hand part always bugged me, but one of those cards that can always keep coming back, that'll always be a nuisance, and sometimes it could be as just a sack mechanic that you need it to be, falls into that category. And since you're completing a dungeon anyways, maybe just already doing it, it's just generating value by going back to your hand, playing it again. If you're doing another sack, remember that first one that we talked about, that first dungeon says sack a creature. So each player sacks a creature. So if that's the case, this is who you're sacking, and you're eventually getting him back anyways because you're completing the dungeon.
Yeah.
So not
Okay.
only are you doing it the fastest, but you're getting it back to your hand. So I'm assuming that's where he's falling into, but again, who knows with all the other cards that are coming out. So I'm hoping to kind of see that being the value from him.
Okay, I'm starting to change my opinion here. So turn 1, you drop this. Turn 2, you figure out a way to enter the dungeon. You go with the one that has the oblette. The next turn, you hopefully can get from the second room into the oblette. You sack this. The next turn, you complete the dungeon that fast because you sacrifice this, discarded a card, lost a land, and then you go ahead and you get this back to your hand, and now you've got this 4/4 legendary and a 2/1 you can cast again. So kind of okay, so it kind of plays along like they built it in almost for that. So
yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Okay, well, that's interesting. Well, let's go ahead and see what they've got for us in the rare category. We have Nadar, Selfless Paladin, which is also a white creature. 1 white, 2 colorless, legendary creature, Dragon Knight. That's a kind of a neat subset right there. I like that, a Dragon Knight. It is a 3/3. It has Vigilance. Nobody likes to play against Vigilance, so that's already good. Whenever Nadar, Selfless Paladin, enters the battlefield or attacks, venture into the dungeon. Ooh, that's strong.
Big.
Other creatures you control get +1/+1 as long as you've completed a dungeon. A 3/3 for 3 with Vigilance that continually goes through a dungeon. Oh man, I think there's I don't know. I'm already seeing black-white looking strong for the set, but they're only showing us black-white really. So
yeah, no, black white's really good. I was thinking Mardu, since we already have knights as a set already, and he would just be an additional knight to that set, and maybe you can add other cards to help you venture into the dungeon to help boost your creatures. Or also, I was thinking like blue-white control, like a mid-range deck, where you're utilizing blink mechanics with Thassa, so you can start entering the dungeon even more and getting more mechanics out of this guy. So you can attack, then blink him at your end step. So not only is he going in, helping you advance the dungeon, but then you blink him and he does it twice. So you're actually moving a turn with him every turn, which is pretty good. And then on top of that, I was just thinking overall, from a commander standpoint or even a brawl standpoint, he's going to be a great commander or great in brawl, either or, just because of all, again, like the blink mechanics, things along those lines to venture into the dungeon further. So I think Nadar is going to be probably one of the stronger cards that we see out of this set, to be honest.
One thing to point out is, since it is a dragon, the best kill spell we have seen from this set so far can't touch Nadar. Can't touch Nadar. No killing dragons, demons, devils, or angels, right?
Yep.
So
that's correct.
Nice and protected. Well, let's get into one of our first 2 mythics, and the last 2 mythics are both planeswalkers. The first one is brand new to Magic the Gathering as well as Dungeons and Dragons, and that is Eliwick Tumblestrum. That is a very whimsical name. I'm gonna say Eliwick Tumblestrum. It's just fun to say. It's 2 green and 2 colorless for a legendary planeswalker. I don't think there's such thing as a non-legendary planeswalker. Maybe when I was out of Magic, so it's just funny that I said that. I could have just said Eliwick. So it comes out with 4 loyalty. For +1, you get to venture into the dungeon. So looks like Eliwick is all in on our dungeon plan.
Yep.
So we have -2. Look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them and put it into your hand. If it is a legendary, you gain 3 life. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. And then you can -7 it, and you get an emblem with creatures you control have trample, had haste, +2/+2 for each dungeon that you have completed. So they're already going to have trample, they're already going to have haste, and then if you haven't completed a dungeon, they're not going to get +2/+2, but then they're either going to have +2/+2, +4/+4, or +6/+6. I guess there's potential to go much higher, but this thing could definitely get out of control, so that's interesting.
Yeah, this one I really liked. I like the idea of going all in on the dungeon mechanic, giving us a planeswalker that can really help boost that. And I was already thinking in my head, like, mono green stomp, like kind of fits into that theme, because even if you drop her on 4 and you're not using her for the venture side, you can do the -2 side, look at the top 6 cards of your library and get a creature that you need. And that already puts value so much into those decks, because you can grab like Gemrazor, Toskies, Yorvos, Vorinclexes, Comas, Like I was just thinking about all the fun stuff, and she also fits in like Simic mid-range decks too, which I thought would be really fun because not only can you kind of control the board, but you can move things along as well. Kind of get advance those creatures and whatnot, and happily get through those dungeons and maybe a little bit faster. Especially again, like I was talking about earlier with blink mechanics, you're able to kind of like push through the dungeon faster. So that -7 becomes that much more relevant, that much more faster. So if you're actually able to pull off that emblem, I just don't know how your opponent comes back from it, to be honest.
Yeah, I seem to be stuck on the dungeon that gets you that 4/4 legendary creature, but it seems like green is going to be in a really good place because you can mana ramp into Eliwick, and then you can go ahead and use her plus ability, get rid of, I don't know, say Heart's Desire, the Lovestruck Beast token. Yeah,
Yeah.
Lovestruck Beast isn't going to be able to attack at that point, but you're going on a different plan, and now you've got a 5/5 blocker that's never going to attack again anyways once you hit this emblem. It
Yeah.
never does that, can Lovestruck attack ever again once you get the emblem. So at that point, maybe you sacrifice the Lovestruck to something later. So there seems like there's going to be a lot of, if you go into that dungeon a second time, you've got the creature you're going to sack immediately, Lovestruck, because you
Yeah.
don't need a 7/7 blocker the rest of the game. So I see a
Yeah.
lot of synergy within mono green if they give us the correct cards with all of these dungeons.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah, I'm excited. Super stoked.
Now, I have been a big fan of Dungeons and Dragons my entire life, but I've never really gotten like I've never really deep dove into it. So this next Planeswalker, I guess, is already in the D&D universe, and that is Lawless Spider Queen. So she's obviously going to be a black Planeswalker by the name. It's 2 black, 3 colors for a legendary Planeswalker, Lawless, and it comes out also with 4 loyalty. Now, when she comes out, she also has just a static ability, which is whenever a creature you control dies, put a loyalty counter on Lawless Spider Queen. So for as much as we know, maybe she's going to be married to Garruk. I don't know. It sounds like it. So, no, I'm kidding. So for -0, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. We already know that's super powerful. Super, super powerful. -3, create 2 2/1 black spider creature tokens with menace and reach. She protects herself. So I already like this way more than Eliwick. You have to have protection for Eliwick already. She has built-in defense mechanic. Now for -8, and that emblem reads, whenever an opponent is dealt combat damage by 1 or more creatures you control, if that player lost less than 8 life this turn, they lose life equal to the difference. So if you hit them for 2 with a creature, they're still taking 6 more. So it kind of pumps up your creatures, but it gives your opponent more ability to be able to block them. As where Garruk, when those wolves get bigger, their creatures are probably dying too. They still have a way to stop it, but they do have the menace. So there's a lot going on here. What do you think about this? I think this is seeing play.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like I really love this card. When I first read it, I was automatically bought in. Like being able to draw cards, great. Losing life, awesome. Creating those 2/1 spider tokens, you can defend yourself. I'm like, cool. The -8 was what got me. That was the one where I was like, okay, how can I take advantage of this? So her static ability is what really makes her amazing. So what I already thought right off the bat was like Gogori Sacrifice decks, like running those Bastion decks. You already have 1/1s that you're creating. They're dying, you're gaining 1 life. So it kind of fits into that 0/1. So when you're drawing a card and losing a life, you're kind of like meeting that demand. But then on top of that, if she's on the board and you have mana and you can plumb, and you like kill, we'll say like 6 of your creatures or something, or 5 of your creatures to draw 4 or 5 cards, well, it now hits the static ability. So when every creature dies, she gets a +1 to her loyalty. So at that moment, you can now minus her 8. And now all of her 1/1s that you're trying to go wide with or put on the board, who cares? They just have to get through. Any of them get through. And if any of them get through at all and 1 hits, now instead of hitting for 1, you're hitting for 7 more on top of that. So it's hitting for 8. So now that going wide mechanic makes way more sense. So if they block any of those creatures, any of them get in, you're always going to be hitting them for at least a total of 8. And that's where I was kind of blown away by this card.
I love it.
And that Bastion deck. So the other ones too that I was thinking about as well was like, mono black control. We've already seen how mono black control can kind of like take over games. She's kind of like an additional bonus for that. If you're building specifically with her in mind. You might have to drop the Ugin and add her and then, do some other like shifts. But that's what I was thinking. The other one was Dimir control decks. We already see Dimir control decks, kind of that mid-rangey. And they're, using bounce mechanics, things along those lines. I think she is super exciting, and she could fit into that theme as well, just because of the creatures, the 2/3s that they might be generating from Ashiok. Anything that dies now pumps her. So I don't know. I just feel like she has a lot of value.
I did not 100% see it when we were talking before we started recording, but now that I see it, I think that this is going to literally make Bastion decks a bigger deck, like, because right now it's kind of a lower end kind of combo-y tricky deck, right?
Yeah.
I think this is going to make Bastion much more of a competitive high end, maybe take it from A to S tier, because the fact that, like you said, so say they have 3 creatures out and they're all bigger than your 4/1/1s.
Yep.
You attack with all 4/1/1s. They can only block 3 of them. So they're going to take 8 from the creature, 1 plus 7. But then if they block and kill the other 3, they're also taking 3 more damage from the Bastion.
Yes.
They're still losing 3 more life.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's still an 8, 9, 10, 11 point turn in 1 turn.
Yeah.
And that's after they've been fighting off all of these Bastion triggers the entire game.
Yep.
And she's creating more creatures, and she can help refill your hand, and that deck is all about refilling your hand, and every creature you just lost adds more value to the card. I mean, Jiminy Chris, that is just... I actually think I think one of our first decks might be a Bastion deck with this. Start working on that, Will. So I guess we need to see a few more cards first. We'll see. So I really, really, really like her. So, lastly, it's not a new card. We're going to talk about the new Evolving Wilds, and not so much the card itself, but the art. I'm super excited. So they're going to be coming out with, I don't know how many cards. They've only showed us the Evolving Wilds so far, but
yeah,
Wizards isn't the kind of people who are like, let's just do one of this kind of card. So, and it's the old original looking D&D style covers.
Yes.
So this doesn't even look like a Magic card, and that's probably going to bug some people. And when I first saw it, I was like, but the more I look at it, the more I'm just like, it kind of fits the flavor, and it's just super, super fun. So what's your opinion on all these new arts?
I mean, I love it, to be honest. I played D&D when I was younger, still play today, and the thing that gets me is them throwing back to when I was a child, and I saw these covers, and I was like wowed by them and wanted to buy the adventure so I can get into it. And just seeing the Evolving Wilds one, I was like, that's awesome. So I don't know, I'm very hopeful that they have more of these cover arts, and I think it's really fun, and especially like how they're introducing the characters as well, with like that brownish tint cover from like older books as well. I really love it. So
like the Nadar.
I don't know. Yeah, like the Nadar Selfish Paladin. Like I just it really makes me happy.
Which is the original. They originally drew them with ink on Sepia paper.
Yep.
So that's why that art looks like that. It's a throwback in case somebody isn't a D&D fan. So
yeah, so it's really cool. I'm excited. So, you know, when they first heard that D&D was coming out, I was probably one of those few like hardcore.
Well, you run a D&D game,
that
don't
was
you?
like,
Or a couple of them.
I
think
do.
you're a
I do.
DM.
Yeah,
which is a dungeon
and
master, once again, for you non-D&D people.
And I love it because I was super stoked. So this is kind of gonna be fun. This is gonna, for me, this core set is gonna be fun for a while. So
I think it is, which is, and remember, this is a core set. So one thing I do want to say, and I kind of touched on it last time, and I want to mention it again. If things like this Evolving Wilds art just looking way different really upsets you, if the new mechanic dungeon is just really just getting under your skin, try to readjust. Don't let those things bother you. What you need to worry about is the fact that the Mr. Beast contest for $1 million, nobody knows who or if someone won it. The $1 million that was going to the Pro Tour was cut by $750,000 to $250,000, almost destroying competitive Magic. They cut the content creator program. These are the things we need to be upset about. Don't be mad at the people who create the cards. They are working their butt off, and they love Magic the Gathering. The people with the checkbooks, the people who make the decisions on the back end about what affects our lives, those are the things we need to be upset about. Let's all come together as a community and really just start to remember that is where our complaints need to be going. So before I wrap it up, Will, is there anything else you would like to let everybody know?
Just that thank you for all of our subscribers. We really do appreciate you. And if you aren't a subscriber, please check down below. All the information's there. It lets you know how to subscribe. And if you do subscribe, it's great. Once we get to 500, we'll be giving away some really cool, free, fun stuff. And we'd love to have you part of that. And thank you so much.
Yeah, so, and what he's talking about, I don't normally say this in the videos, we've been putting it in the description, but when we do hit 500 subscribers, we're going to be giving away a box of the current set, whatever it is. We're going to be giving away a Brewing with Magic playmat. some stickers. Will has some Commander product. There might even be other stuff that we're giving away. We don't know, and you won't either unless you subscribe. So all that information is down below. Please rate, review, and smash that button. Once again, if you already are a subscriber, we love you. Thank you for being part of the Brew Crew. It means a lot to us. Help us build the channel. Join our Twitter down below and share this on social media. Thank you very much to our Patreon. We would love it if you would help support the channel. Not only would you be supporting the channel, you'd be supporting yourselves. And what I mean by that is the more Patreons we get, the more money we make, the more we're actually going to plan on giving back out. We're never going to stop doing these raffles. There's always going to be landmarks, or once we hit a certain amount of followers, then we're always going to have like a once a month raffle. We want to be very in with the community. We want to give stuff back. So please smash that subscribe button. And as always, well, you know what I'm going to say. Have a blast in the arena.